Some few things to talk about before I come and join you there. Malim Noor from Tana Delta says topics like reproduction in class 8 syllabus should be omitted or reviewed because even drawings of sex organs are taught which raise curiosity, the curiosity rate of people. Something to think about.
All right, thank you, Hussein. I was trying to steal your thunder there for a bit, but obviously you took over. Thank you so much for that feedback. We're talking about sex and sexuality, especially amongst teens, and I'd like to shift the focus back to our audience, and maybe I'd like to see by a show of hands how many of you were given the taught about sex by your parents. Anyone? You were. Oh, okay. Why were you quiet before? Those are the questions you needed answered. How many of you learnt about it from your friends and peers at a young age? Okay. I like how Julius has also raised his hand. Of course, Julius Weche is the one who's come and escorted a lot of the young people that we have here. Chris Kiagiri at the back there is from Google. He'll be giving us a little bit about his expertise and just how to manage social media and access to social media and the internet for your children. So you were taught by your parents. You had the talk with your parents about sex. Could you tell us how that happened? Were you the one who asked them? Did they just come up to you?
Hi, my name is Purity Wanjohi. I am an environmental activist running Mazingira Safi Initiative, and I'm also a student at the University of Nairobi. My parents did teach me about sex. I'm 24, and last year we still had the talk with my parents. There was an article about a girl who was 20 and HIV positive. My dad made me, my sister, and my brother read the article on Friday. Then he told us that we were going to have the discussion on Sunday evening. And we sat there, he told us to write notes. We wrote notes, we exchanged, and then we discussed. Okay. Yes.
But it was only last year?
No, I was saying he taught us when we were young, and he's still teaching us. Okay. Because the recent term was just last year, as I was saying.
How do you feel that's had an impact in your life and on some of the decisions that you've made?
It has really helped me know myself and know how to relate with other people, know how to relate with girls and boys, and how to make choices. Because if they didn't tell me, I would have learned from someone else who would have taught me maybe the wrong thing. Okay. And so I'm very grateful about it, and I wish all parents will do the same, because if my dad, who's half a century old, could sit us down and tell us, it's young parents should do so as well, because they are the older generations. They are the ones who are accused of being shy. But if my dad can do it, and my mom, then I think anyone else should do it. Yes.
All right. Thank you for that. Of course, Hussein Mohammed has joined us from the other studio, and you look like you want to shoot a question to one of the audience members.
Not really like I'm eager, but it's from what people are asking. One who hasn't talked yet, maybe? Yeah, I'll start with you. What many people are asking is, okay, tell me about your experience first, your name and your experience.
My name is Nelly Ashono. I'm a Rotaractor, and I currently run a sanitary distribution project in marginalized areas. Yeah.
Did you have sexual experience?
Well, I had sexual experience early, and
at what age?
I was also given the talk by my parents, but it was more of a dictator. I come from a very large family, so it was more or less like, you're not supposed to have sex. If you ever have sex, you're going to have kids, and nobody's going to take care of your kids. So we all grew up with that fear. If you have sex, you're going to become pregnant, and it's a very bad thing. Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to ask at what age. Of course, feel free if you feel like you don't want to answer some issues.
I would not want to answer.
You don't want to answer that, fine. There's no
not when people are watching.
Yeah,
not when people are watching.
That is okay, but what came first? The dictatorship-like talk you had from your parents, or your decision to do it?
It came more from my father.
Before your first sexual experience?
Yes.
So he had talked to you like that before your first sexual experience?
Yeah, he did talk to me before my first experience. It was when I was going to Form 1. So when you go to Form 1, there are all those things. So he gave us the talk. Yeah. But it was more of a dictatorship to me. Don't do this. So, and you know, as kids and as teenagers, when you grow up and told, don't do this, you become more curious. Why am I not supposed to do this?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and the question then many asking, and maybe to go to the rest as well, is what drove you to do it? Like, why did you want to do it?
Peer pressure.
What do you mean? Like, you just decided because your friends...
Exactly.
Yeah.
My friends did it, and when they came to school, they all used to talk about it. So I figured I was probably losing out in the cool crowd.
Okay.
So I have to do it myself.
Somebody else wants to... Yeah. Let him go, yeah. Your name?
Oh, thank you. Hi, my name is Michael Mutier, and unlike my other colleagues, my story is a bit different. Okay, yes, I did receive the talk from my parents, mostly my mom. My dad actually never gave me a
Prior
talk.
or after, sorry.
No. Actually, I've never indulged
Wow,
in it yet.
okay.
You've never had sex
This is the
before.
virgin way. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry about that.
No, but that's okay because we
Yeah.
still want to understand
Exactly.
maybe why
yeah.
you waited.
And how old are you right now? That's
Currently, I'm 19 years old.
18 years. Okay.
19.
Go on.
Yeah. So my dad actually never got to tell me about sex, but I really appreciate my mom for how she gave me the talk. Earlier when I was still in primary school, she did give me the talk, and all through high school, she talks, and how she does it is the style she uses to do it is what I mostly like, because like my friend Leah just said, there is the dictatorship style of doing it, as in you are not supposed to do this.
Yeah.
Now when you tell a teenage that, you're only making them more curious as to why they're not supposed to do it. But I like how my mom does it. She'll just leave the ball on your court. She'll tell you, okay, this is it, this is sex. If you want to do it, well and good, but if you also don't want to do it, well and good. But she gives you the choice, and she gives you the consequences, both as to why you are to do it and why you're not to do it.
Have you ever been curious yourself?
Yeah.
And how do you do?
I'm only
suppress
human,
it or- yeah.
and okay, I think it really is about when it comes to sex, I must say it's more of a personal opinion, or it's a personal choice as to why I should do it and as to why I should not do it. I've had peer pressure come my way, and I must say I was in the great high school, and there was a lot of peer pressure that would have driven me into sex, but I chose not to. And,
Are you waiting for someone special? Are you waiting to get married? I know I'm getting a little personal here, but are you waiting until to get married, perhaps?
yeah, hopefully I'll make it there. Yeah, sure, I'm waiting.
Janet, before I throw it back
Yeah,
to you,
sure.
the rest who had talked earlier, if you just can tell us in 2 or 3 words why you decided, what drove you. That is what you want to get. At least one talked about peer pressure.
Personally, it was, I want to do it.
You just wanted to experience it.
You've heard about it. Why not?
Okay. Let me...
For my case, I started working at an early age. Say, by the age of 8, I used to accompany my mother to work. So by the age of 10, I was working on my own to pay my own fees and the likes. So you work with grown-ups. They speak all sorts of things. So you hear them, you try to understand them. Then the one thing that kept on ringing all the time, and which was being spoken by elderly people, is that there was nothing else as sweeter as sex.
Okay.
So every time they speak, the summary was having sex is the sweetest thing more than honey. So at the age of 15, you wonder like, oh, can I have a try? Then you try it. But trust me, by the time I was going to Form 1, nobody was able to convince me that it was the sweetest thing. I'm glad to say that no one can make me or can maybe put pressure to me to decide to have sex up to date.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you? Very briefly.
Not yet.
Not yet. I know. Yeah. Okay.
Hi everybody. As for me, I started sex when I was 18 years old. That is when I finished my Form 4. About sex, I just heard it from my friends. My friends, they say, sex is, you just try sex and you'll know it. So with that, I get the urge to like try to know how does it taste.
Okay.
Yeah.
The same thing as him. You know, okay, Janet, some things in the panel we're picking from this. There's peer pressure.
Yeah.
There's how the parents talk to the children. There's learning or bad influence from grown-ups. That is from what the gentleman said.
Yeah. So your thoughts, and I think another question that someone is asking on Twitter is how do you become approachable to your children for them to be able to come and talk to you about it? Because just like she said, there was the dictator sort of aspect about it. So you're even nervous or scared to, if you're curious, to talk to your parents. And as parents, of course, you can contribute, but how do you become approachable as a parent so that children can talk to you?
I think the first thing is that parents are really ignorant as far as teaching sexuality to their kids is concerned. So I'd say, let's start with parents equipping themselves. Look for books on how can you talk to kids about sexuality. Once you've informed yourself, you feel more confident. If your child asks you, you don't feel threatened, you will give them straight answers. The one thing that I must say is that parents need to stop going round the bush and giving lies. You don't need to tell a 4-year-old that children are gotten from the hospital. That's not true. You give birth to children. Yeah. So.
All right. I think I want to move on to something else that a lot of people are worried about when it comes to their children, and that's what they see on their phones, easy access to the internet and to pornographic sites, etc. Anita, as a parent, how worried are you about this trend? You have a phone in your hand, the world is at their fingertips, they're able to access anything and everything, really. How do you deal with that as a parent?
It's something that worries me a lot, and I think that, like she said, shying away from the problem will not make it go away. And just because I bring my children up with certain values doesn't mean they won't go out and experience different things from different people. I think it's about keeping the door open and letting them know that they can come to me and talk about things they have either seen or heard on sites, because sometimes it's a mistake. Sometimes they will actively go there. But we need to be aware that even certain shows that are meant to be for kids are not appropriate.
So you try and explain that to them?
Yes, and explain why they're not appropriate, and explain why I'm not comfortable watching.
All right, I want to go back to our audience in just a few moments, but let me bring in Peter. And also don't forget, you can use the hashtag MondaySpecialKE to keep the conversation going and your questions as well. Very quickly, Peter, the impact of early sexual behavior with regards to AIDS and early pregnancies. Your thoughts on that and what the research says as well.
We are seeing some very interesting figures from the Kenya AIDS survey, Kenya AIDS Indicator Survey of 2012. Single and unmarried girls have a 2.7% HIV prevalence. The minute you ask them to get married, they double that risk to 5.3. The minute they separate or divorce, the risk increases to 14.3. 5 times almost what it was when they were unmarried.
Okay.
The minute they become widows, if God forbid the spouse dies, the risk goes up 7 times to what it was when they were unmarried.
Wow.
So it tells us a lot about sexual behavior and motivations. For the single woman, for the married woman, for the separated woman or divorced woman, and for the widow.
All right. Very quickly, again, just in terms of, like you say, just viewing the sites and everything, condom use. At what point do you also start to talk about safe sex and talk about condoms and contraceptives with your children? When does that come in?
I believe children need to get as much information as they can, of course age appropriate, because I believe when you give children information, you empower them.
So what's age appropriate to talk about condoms and contraceptives? Some people are up in arms, by the way, saying there's no way I'm going to talk to my 4-year-old.
You are giving them information. So when statistically it's been proven that if you give children information, you delay the first time of sex involvement, sexual involvement.
Okay, so again, the age of condom use and contraceptives, when should that come in? What's an appropriate age to introduce that? What do you think?
The interesting figure there is girls who are 17 to 19 and are sexually active are the highest users of condoms amongst all women.
But what's the most appropriate age to introduce that
Probably
discussion?
when they are ready or about ready to have sex.
I think when the child starts asking more questions about what is sex like, why do I feel like this, and their body starts changing, you can bring in the discussion. And you can bring in the discussion through everyday things. They might see an ad about ABCs and using condoms. They might see something on television. And some of those times are a good time to bring up those things. So you don't shy away from it. So you don't say, put off the television.
You have to address it when it happens.
You address it when it happens.
Hussein?
Yeah. Janet, we'll go back to our audience, to some people we haven't really heard about. You're talking about the internet.
Exactly.
The problem with phones. And some people here already asking, at what point should I not allow my teenage son or daughter not to use a phone or to access the internet? Is that possible? And now we bring Chris Kiagiri, who is an engineer at Google Kenya. Chris.
Thanks. The question of at what age your child should have a mobile phone and whether it should be a smartphone, whether it should have data access, those are questions of our generation that our previous generation did not have to answer. And quite honestly, there isn't a textbook answer that at this age, it is proper or it is in order for a child to have a phone. So parental discretion as to what age, I think the main consideration is that parents ought to recognize today that phones are like power tools. And in the same way that you wouldn't hand a power tool to a child, likewise, before you give a power tool, in this case, the smartphone, or a tablet, or a laptop, or an internet-capable device to a minor, whether it's a young child, a teenager, there's a lot of considerations as to the capabilities of this device and whether this child is ready for it. Many of us here, I'm guessing, would probably have owned our first phones maybe at the age of 20 or above, I'm not sure, but that's changing. The other thing to consider in addition to the age is parental attitude towards technology. Are parents resigned to the fact that technology is moving so fast? What's the point of trying to keep up? I would say that as technology has advanced, it has actually, in some sense, become simpler, in the sense that it's a lot easier to find information, whether it's written information, whether it's visual, video information, it's just a search away. And so parents should adjust their attitudes towards technology and not be resigned to the fact that...
Chris, can I cut in before I let Hussein? Just a quick one. But what is your most important tip for parents to keep their children safe online?
Let's start with the means through which people access the web, which is the browser. So this would either be on a smartphone or on a PC or on a laptop. Most people either use Google, which is the most used search engine in Kenya. The second most used search engine in Kenya is YouTube. Those are the two gateways, if you will, for many people. If you're looking for video, it's YouTube. If you're looking for anything else, it's Google. And I'm amazed at how many parents allow their kids to play around with their phones, tablets, PCs, laptops, without turning on Safe Search. Safe Search is literally google.com/preferences, and the first line is turn on Safe Search. Once you turn it on, you click to set a password for it. And ideally, you don't use the password that you use for everything else, because that means if your child finds out one password, then they know all the other passwords. So that would be the #1 thing as a starting point.
And that would be good, of course. That is one way of solving it. But then again, we all know that you don't necessarily have the PC or a tab or a phone in your home. This teenage boy or girl can still access the same at a friend's place or in the school. So how do you stop that?
Absolutely. So I have the easy task of talking about how to enforce external behavior. The more difficult questions, obviously, are around character, upbringing. You know, how do you get a child to recognize right from wrong?
So again, it's about parents talking to the children. You can't really stop it.
So I'm talking about locking your door at night, even though there are means to break the lock.
Or go out through the window.
Right.
Okay. I want to bring in a very interesting guest we also have, Titus Deritu. Titus, you'll tell us your age, and Titus is not afraid to say that he's a recovered sex addict and now works in a rehab. Titus, tell us your story very briefly.
Thank you very much. I am Titus Deritu from Nyahururu. I work in an addiction treatment center. That is there we are dealing with people who are having substance use disorders and sex disorders. Myself, I'm a recovered sex addict. I'm now 5 years sober. Basically,
And how old are you now, if you don't mind?
Now I'm 34 years old.
You're 34 years. Okay.
Yes.
When did you start? Of course, if you're okay with saying it.
Yeah. My first sexual experience was when I was a 7-year-old boy. It was sex abuse through our household.
It was abuse, you say?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
It was at 7 years old.
See?
But this, I forgot about it.
Yeah.
I forgot completely about it. In fact, I only came to remember about it when I was 28 years old, when the doctor was trying to do a screening of where my addiction started from.
So how do you know that you are a sex addict?
Sex addiction is real. What happens is that it is a condition that is very difficult to diagnose and to know about it, because most of the people who are sex addicts, they present with other problems, either personality disorders or substance use disorders. And this is something that I've realized in our treatment center, that most of the time we admit people, the presenting problem is either alcohol or drugs.
Right.
But as you journey with the person, you discover there is something that went amiss during childhood. And most of these people who are drinking or using drugs, they had a problem with their sexuality during their young age. Yes.
Okay. Let me finally, unless you have a question for him.
I have a question, actually, perhaps one of you can answer. Is there a link between engaging in sex at an early age and later sex addiction? Has that link been drawn, that if you begin to engage in sex at a young age, you could potentially become a sex addict? Have those links been drawn in any research? None that you know of?
What I know is that the research that I've come across is that when you start having sex at a very early age, it sort of traumatizes you, and in trying to deal with that trauma, you sort of have a low self-image and you're wanting to be accepted, so you keep looking for opportunities to be accepted. And that's why at Newdon, Kenya, we emphasize teaching children, not teenagers, sexuality, because you want to start them from a very young age and sort of inoculate them. Yeah.
All right. Hussein?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring in, finally, Dr. Julius Swechi. Of course, he's been here before. He's the CEO of Acad Education Group. He'll tell us what that is all about briefly. Of course, he helps us to bring such youth who are ready to talk about these things. Tell us about what you think about all this. And you've been working with them.
Yes. My name is Dr. Julius Swechi, CEO of Acad Education Group. I also have the privilege of being able to represent a gender-based violence organization known as the JB Kilimo Foundation. And it's been an honor and a privilege to work with these young people. One of the key things we do at the Acad Education Group is to challenge students on a SWOT analysis. What are their strengths and what are their opportunities? But to also help them understand that weaknesses and threats, such as early sexual behavior, can cause them to fail to attain the goals and the dreams and the vision that they have for their lives. So even as I'm sitting in this group, I'm really amused because one of us here knows very well that he did something wrong at some point in time, and I came with a big stick and I whacked him on his head. But I will not say who he is. He's one of us in the audience. But the point is that we would wish you to be able to succeed, and that's why we are happy to see you succeeding as you're doing.
Yeah.
And even as we sit here, I'm really glad to see the panels there. You don't, my daughter managed to come and be impacted by you when she was 9 years old. We're grateful for Adita and the work that she's done. We've done other work with her in Loresho before. It's great to meet on set. And Peter, the things we were doing in South Africa together. So I'm just grateful that we have an opportunity of being able to address these things. And we'd hope that more young people can choose to engage us and not just say, leave it as it is. But the other thing I just wanted to mention that in terms of Google, you need to help some of us parents who are just technically unsavvy.
Challenged.
We are challenged. Some of us come from rural areas. We don't even know what a smartphone is. We need to maybe say we can only give our children Mulika Mwizi because our kids are so sharp.
Right. But Chris, I think, mentioned google.com/preferences. And that can sort of, Okay,
but like right now, unless that is running at the bottom of the screen, half the people who are listening to this have already forgotten what that site is. But I think we're doing a good job here. Thank you very much, Hussein and Janet. I really appreciate what you're doing.
All right, thank you. Sorry, Chris has a quick comment before we look at Facebook and Twitter and then hear from Anita.
Okay, let me make it a bit easier. if you just search for parental controls for whatever, whether it's Android, Windows, Mac OS X, my tablet, anything that you're looking for parental controls for, you're very likely to find multiple sources of information on how to set those controls.
Okay.
Instead of having to memorize the web address.
I think there's some comments on Facebook that we've been asked to get before we can continue. Are there questions or comments that the team is telling us? Okay, Hussein?
Right. We start with Facebook. John Kisengi says, what are you supposed to do when you find out your 13-year-old daughter or son is sexually active? Kendi Johnson says, who should talk to teenagers about sex? Parents, teachers, or peers? What concepts should they be enlightened on? And Fred Nyangaresi, why is underage sex rampant in towns? Are parents playing their role in upbringing of their children? Rosita Rose, how do we deal with kids who are affected by their lifestyle, careless parents who practice sex in the presence of the children, and the mentality that sex is okay? And Nathan Rotich, what are the effects of underage sex? Justice Siriba says, as parents, what can we do to create awareness to our children about the concern of sex and their life now and in the future? I believe all those are questions that should be handled by Janet's panel as we wind up.
Yes.
Just want, by a show of hands, if you don't mind again, for those who had their first sexual experience at an early age, do you regret?
Sure. No one regrets it.
His early age.
I didn't say underage, at an early age.
Specify.
Under 18.
As she quickly puts the microphone down.
Okay, of course, you have to, if you're okay with it.
Yeah.
Does anybody regret? Okay, Janet.
Really, no regrets? Okay, none, all right.
Right.
Anita, I think I saw you raise your hand to comment on something.
I wanted to say something about early consensual sex, because I think they're just two different things. For some, it's abuse, and even though someone is consenting to sex as early as 7, I don't think they know what they're doing.
Okay, so it's considered.
Yeah, so it is still a form of abuse.
All right. Very quickly, Anita, I want to interrupt you there. We've just heard a question about upbringing as parents. Are parents failing in some ways? I know we've heard about the fact that they're not talking to children, but other things like engaging in sex in the, where their children can hear it, or perhaps leaving their children alone for long hours at home. Do you get the sense that parents are failing in some sense? And that's why we're seeing the numbers of young children having sex go up.
I don't know if the word is failing. I think a lot of parents are struggling to make ends meet. So all these things then compound and start the wrong kind of maids are bringing up children, and you come home at 9 and your children are asleep, and someone asked who should talk to children about sex. Parents. It should be the parents. And like she said, the early, when you engage your children about sex, chances are they are going to go out and have sex later and make wiser choices. Not because you've told them about sex are they going to go and buy a condom and have sex when they're 10 years old. But we need to be aware of that. And I think our fear is if we open the door, we're going to give them too much information. But I think all of us here have said is make it age appropriate. And there are many books and many sites that teach you how to bring up the topic with a younger age, like when a child asks, where did I come from? You don't have to start talking about what happens, and at 4 is very different to what you'll tell an 11-year-old.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, Hussein, do you want to make a...
No, I wanted to make a comment. I wanted to say that my parenting teacher would say that children never choose to be born, and parents can choose one another at the appropriate time, but they can never choose when to parent once the kids are here. If your children are here, then you need to stop what you're doing and parent your children. So this business of being away from your child from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. should never be.
On that note, Gideon Moore in Karen is asking, can Leah, the psychologist, let us know the telltale signs for a parent to look for in order to know if a 16-year-old daughter is having
Sex.
Sex. This one's very specific, but of course, daughter and son.
The telltale signs.
Sometimes kids can be really quiet and secretive, so you need to be checking what's going on. If they don't want to talk a lot about, if you ever ask them and they are wanting to be defensive and to sort of be very discreet about that, then you need to be worried about what's going on.
All right. Is it okay for parents to spy on their children? You guys should cover your ears. Is it all right for parents to spy on their children? Go through
It's the wrong approach. I think it's the wrong approach to how you find information from your children. If you develop trust from a very young age, you need not to spy. Your kids will come with information, they'll come with the hard stuff, they'll ask you the hard stuff, and you'll present them the correct answers. So they need to be hearing the correct answers from the parents. And that's why at New Dawn we say, let us help you as parents know how to use start to teach your children sexuality.
Okay.
But again,
sorry. Yeah, we'll get your comments in just a few moments. Sorry, your
I would say apart from parents, the schooling system, sex education, has a very major role to play.
Okay.
And Teacher Service Commission now want to introduce sex education in schools. A primary school girl who has 3 more years of education reduces the number of children she'll have by 1. And almost all these issues are correlated with education. The time a girl has a first sexual experience, the number of children she'll have, pregnancy, disease, all these things. So I think schooling and sex education has a major role to play.
Very important. A few more comments before we wind up.
Yes. There's a question that says, who should teach children about sex? Parents or teachers? See, there's an or there. People aren't asking who should teach them, all of them collectively, but asking who should teach them, one or. You're passing the buck here. Because at an early age, the 2 primary sources of information for children is your parents and in the school setting. So when your parents point the fingers at the teachers and say, teachers are not teaching my children properly, what are you telling everybody else? That it's not your job to be the first and primary caregiver and source of education for your child. Now, thing is, even in the school setting, when you're talking about who should teach your children, the approach is wrong. You tell your children, you'll get AIDS, you'll get babies. Then people discover there's a cure to AIDS in babies. It's called condoms. So you realize it works.
So you want them to promote safe sex?
97% of it say it's safe. It's safe. I don't want them to promote safe sex. I want to give it as if you must have it, because things will happen. We cannot account for everything. You use it. Use a condom properly. But before you go that direction, why would you want to have it in the first place? So when you give your kids the option, say, okay, you know what, condoms, STIs, that it cures that or whatnot, the kids think, okay, with condoms it's fine. And that's the same case with me. Thought, okay, condoms, safe sex, check. So I can have it now. And people don't understand the psychological implications of having sex at such an early age. So I think it should be addressed in both, that parents need to talk to their children at an early age and tell them, no, this is sex, this is what it's about, but don't feel the need to rush into it, because you don't have to. And teachers should say, this is sex, this is the implications, but before you even think of that, why would you want to do it?
Okay. All right.
Let's try and be a bit brief because of time.
Mine will be to ask somebody else, how should their parent be approachable to their children? The first thing that I've learned from my aunt, and I share almost everything with her, almost everything, because one, she makes herself available to us as a friend, number one, not as a parent. Because personally, if I can remember, the number of times I spoke to my parents, a story, general story, not any type of story, general story, is after Form 4. All the time was like, you be given instruction, do this, that is done. That's the end of it. Nothing beyond like to share how was your day today, how are your friends, and nothing like that. Again, second thing that I like about that here, you need to monitor the kind of friends your children move around. And that, as it is said psychologically, if I'm not wrong, as a child develops, that becomes at age of 2 for a girl, tends to associate with the father more than the mother. If you're not very careful, again, it reaches a point that the mother and the daughter start conflicting because of the fatherly love. And again, for the guys, for the boys, at the age of 2, they tend to love their mother more, spend their time with their mother more than their father. That's the time they should learn to realize when is true love and what is lust. So spend with your children, with your sons as friends that they can share with you everything in terms of biblical, the internet, and friends, what they say about
a final comment here.
I will encourage parents to be the ones to talk to their children first, because you are the one with the first-hand information. Children learn by seeing what you do, by hearing what you're doing, and you should also make time with your children. I have my parents have always been there. The way we have been brought up is not the same way that other children from single parent or with no parents. It's different because of the way they were brought up. And also, fathers, you're the leader in your family in whatever aspect. You should be the one to talk to your wife, let us do this together. Because if you don't do it and you are made to be a leader, then I'm not sure what you should do. But if you're a single mom, take stride. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Hussein is asking if I can join him. Do you want me to join you there?
Should I join? I want you to join me.
Yes, I think you want me to join you. So I'm just going to join you.
Yeah, I'm standing where I'm standing and you had to join me. So, but anyway, thank you so much. Of course, we're coming to the end of the show.
Yeah.
Just a few more comments. Would have loved to hear you talk about because we're running out of time. Somebody here on Twitter, Monday Special KE, says it's shocking. Parents should be strict to children and educate much on ABC rule, what he was saying really, and advise on its impact without fear whatsoever. And Kirwa Chilchir from Nandi Hills, Nicholas Kirwa, says empower Directorate of Adult and Continuing Education. They have an elaborate design to address these vices.
All right. I don't know whether we have any tweets, any boards that we can read. I don't know whether we have any tweets. All right, let's take a look at some of your feedback on Twitter as we wind up. There we have it. At Mburu Mose says sexual engagement amongst kids has multiple root causes. Absent parenting, exposure to pornography among them. At David M. Nganga says, this is a crazy world. Let the parents take control of this and teach them about sex. So a lot of people sharing the same views as our audience and panel. At Denfin, Kenya, I think, the problem is many parents, teachers, and pastors never give that talk. Right, yeah, so that's where, should I go on? You go on.
Koza Lincoln, the children take much of their lessons from TV. Parents and society do little to advise.
All right, let me continue. At C. Kogutu says, the love for money and lack of proper parental guidance plays a great role in teenage sex. Right, that's the last tweet that, you can't read that?
I have a problem like that. That was supposed to be private.
No, really, no, I can't.
Okay.
All right, so thank you all so much. I want to thank our audience. Fantastic. Thank you for being so bold and open. And I think we need to encourage these discussions. You know, talk to people, put it on Twitter, get people engaged in the discussion, and fantastic expert advice as well from our panelists. Thank you all so much for coming. It's a heavy topic. It's, for a lot of parents, it's pretty traumatic, at least from the ones I've spoken to. So it's about making it palatable, so to speak.
Right.
But most importantly, from what we've learned, is that parents should initiate this discussion. Of course. I'm Janet Vogler. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.
For watching, Janet says. And everybody's laughing here. Okay.
It's been a long day.
Let me say it's right. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Hussein Mohammed. Have a good night.
Nice.